Hello, I'm Chief Warrant Officer 4 Vic Pinion, U.S. Navy retired, telling some stories of my naval career. I've told you some other stories about us in the catapult and rescue gear community having shortages of repair parts and materials and of defectively manufactured parts and materials. Well, this one, I'm sure I've told you about some catapult water break problems and other stories. But this one is aboard the John F. Kennedy. We're in the Mediterranean Sea in combat. And we received a message, and we've been at sea continuously for a couple of months. We received a message from the Naval Air Engineering Center and a take it for action from the Commander of Naval Air Force's Atlantic Fleet to go inside the catapult water break tanks and turn on the pump and look at the streams that the water break's annulus rings put into the water break cylinder to form a perfect vortex to keep those cylinders full even though they're laying on their sides. Chief Neely, we looked at that, man, what are these guys? That's an absolute no-no. You're supposed to shut down, blow down steam and from the catapult and safety tag the catapult out and close all the valves and switches and safety tag them out before you go in that water break tank to prevent those pumps from coming on, somebody turn them on, or moving the catapult piston assembly or something while you're in there. Well, now here's a message telling us to go in there and turn the pumps on and look at the streams. It was a legitimate message. Plus, it reminded me of the last thing that had occurred aboard the USS Midway while I was on the Admiral staff in the Western Pacific. The Midway had the dogs literally rip off the shuttle and the connectors and the catapult. And we had not really discovered what caused that. And the water break would be severely damaged. Well, we had pulled the Midway into Subic Bay and rebuilt the water breaks. Brought a special team out from Alameda, California, and really rebuilt those water breaks. But we had an engineer and a commander from Commander of Naval Air Systems Command, flew out there from the States, and we rebuilt those water breaks for the #1 catapult, but we never did really find out exactly what the problem was. Well, this message from the Naval Air Engineering Center, they had discovered that the annulus rings were defectively manufactured in that they had drilled the holes in them at the wrong angles. And under certain circumstances, they could fail to keep the water break cylinder, one of them or both, maybe, whatever, full of water. And you have poor braking, and with the poor braking, it's massively exceeding the allowable forces on the other components of the catapult and causing that shuttle to literally rip off and rip the dogs off of it and rip the dogs off of a connector and destroy the water break. Well, we went in there and Chief Neely said, "Oh man, it's beautiful." So I went in there with him. Yeah, it was beautiful. Just a beautiful sight. We knew how it worked, but we'd never actually seen it. Well, here we were looking at it. Well, we checked the other catapult, and before we got finished, we had found in the #4 catapult some, like 11 of those holes had big cracks in them. They were old annulus rings. And some of the streams went astray. So we bought new annulus rings from the supply department. They had something like 23 of them on board, which was, my goodness, a decade supply at least. Anyway, we bought a couple of them and put them in Cat 4's water breaks. And then I reported back to the Naval Air Engineering Center what we'd done. Well, I put the contract numbers of the ones we had drawn, because they had given if you found where the streams weren't going right, you were supposed to remove them and check the contract numbers. Well, I had done that, but the ones we removed from Cat 4 didn't have either of those contract numbers. But the new ones that we drew from supply also didn't have that contract number. So we installed them in the Cat. I went back with a message to them, and they got an immediate reply to that. Oh, by the way, there are some additional bad contract numbers we have discovered that where they didn't drill those holes at the right angles. And you have put one of them in Cat 4. Remove it immediately. And so we drew all of them from supply. And now we replaced it in Cat 4. Now, we had broken every socket of that size to remove those bolts from those 4 catapults, water breaks. And had got an emergency order with some additional ones and whatnot, heavy duty sockets and whatnot. Plus we had removed, accidentally, didn't plan to, but the bolt locking, self-locking helicoils that were part of an earlier field change came out with the bolts. And also we had some new ones, but we were unsuccessful in putting the new helicoils in there. So we did have some of the old bolts before they put the helicoils. They still fit. So I put them in and tack welded them in and reported what we'd done. A massive amount of work for us at sea, operating in alert 5 condition off the coast of Lebanon during this whole time. I can't tell you how much I appreciated the attitude and involvement of those chief petty officers. Cheney, Neely, and Paris. The maintenance chief, bow and waist catapult chief, and the Cat captains were very much involved. And I suspect that all of that rolled downhill from all of us being involved. But this was the solution to the Midway's old problem from my previous tour duty on the Admiral staff. And when the Midway had ripped off its dogs and shuttle. But guess what? There was another ship. Although Naval Air Engineering Center kept pinging us, inspect this, report back at done. Well, another ship, Norfolk home-ported aircraft carrier, the sister ship to the Kennedy, did not do the inspection. And they made a deployment. And on the way back from that deployment, I think it was their number 4 catapult, ripped the dogs off of a connector, disconnected one of the piston assembly from it, and put, I think it was an EA-6 aircraft in the drink, and the crew of that aircraft perished. Well, there were some legal consequences of that also. Okay, so you get information from Higher Authority to inspect something, you do it. Even though it might go a little bit against your grain, but you do it. You be cooperative. End of the story, y'all carry on.